Nick and Alyssa Gonzalez, welcome to Ride and Tie Tongue-Tied Interviews.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
And I should say Rory as well. I'm glad she's joining us also, 10-month-old Rory. That's great. Well, you're on here for a couple of reasons. One is that Alyssa really comes from Ride and Tie royalty. Her dad is Chuck Staley, whom many folks know and has been with Ride and Tie a long time. But truly, the reason you're here today is that you just won the 52nd annual World Championship. And so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And not only did you win it, but your horse Kona won best condition. And you're really following up on a third place team victory back in for the 50th. And that one, Jackson, your horse, won best condition. So you guys just are racking it up, and that's wonderful. So congratulations on all of that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, tell me a little bit. I think it's probably obvious because of Chuck, but how you got involved in Ride and Tie.
Yeah. So Ride and Tie is what got my dad involved in the horses altogether, and he's now the Tevis Cup ride director. So my family has gotten very involved in the Tevis Cup over the years, and my sister and I both rode that at 12. And we now live actually at the finish of the Tevis Cup in Auburn, California. So it's become, I mean, it's a hobby that I've carried through my whole life and kind of built a lot of our life around. And when Nick met me, he did not ride horses. So
Nope, never had ridden a horse and really wasn't a runner either. But they would go out to the trails to train the horses, and they said, you have three options. You can sit at the truck for 3 hours while we train the horses, you can ride the horses, or you can run. And I said, well, of those three options, I guess running sounds the best. So I took up the endurance running, and every time they would go out and train the horses, I would do the running. And so that kind of goes hand in hand with the Ride and Tie, right? I mean, you got a runner, you got a rider. So that's kind of how we got into both endurance sports.
Yeah. And then you didn't run a ton until your brother invited you to do the San Francisco Marathon in like 2014.
Yeah.
And once he did that, he was like, I think I want to try some of these ultra marathons. And then he's like, I think I could run the Tevis Cup. And so he set his sights on Western States. So he qualified for states like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, qualified 4 times. And on the 5th,
like 7 years.
And then on the 5th time, I finally got into Western States in 2023. I actually ran Western States. So that's kind of, my background.
Yeah. So if you're gonna, you can have 2 strong runners. You can have a strong rider and a strong runner. But that's kind of our MO is, he generally wants to run more and I generally want to ride more. So it works really well as a team. So, yeah.
So you realize, I'm sure, Nick, you're 2/3 of the way towards, it's called several things, the triple cripple. Or so is Tevis in your future?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the next goal. I do. I got a unique advantage that I have a family that knows horses, and I have a team that can crew me. That's part of the reason why we've won 2 best conditions is, in my opinion, we have the best crew in the sport, right? I mean, Pam, Chuck's wife, has been crew since the beginning. And so nobody in this sport can crew like she can. And honestly, that's part of why we have won best condition twice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you start with really nice horses, right? That have the base. I mean, both Jackson and Kona, Jackson's 15 and Kona's 20. So it's like they know how to take care of themselves out there. And we really saw that out at Kona last weekend because he's completed Tevis 3 times. And so he at first didn't know what was going on when we said, no, we were talking like real speed today. But then there were times when he slowed up down some hills and I was getting a little frustrated, but he had tripped a couple times. And I said, you know what, buddy, your limits. And so, you trust the horse and they come in, they pulse down, they start eating, they start drinking because they know what they're doing. My sister came into town to help crew too. She crewed Jackson as well 3 years ago. And she first aid state vet check, she was like, hey, Alyssa, come sit down, because she's been an endurance rider. And my dad was like, there is no sitting in this sport. Like, she is ready to go fit this horse. So my sister was like, whoa, next vet check, she was on it. So the whole family shows up because they know what this means to accomplish this. Yeah.
I mean, it really is a team sport, right? I mean, me and Alyssa are out, but but the crew members are what make the best condition. It's what gets the horses through. You see some teams out there that have limited crew, and it's tough. So it really is a team sport.
Yeah, that's great. True. So this was Kona's first ride and tie, is that correct?
Ever, yeah.
So did you train him any ahead of time tying or anything, or just let him learn?
We did. So our intent was actually to have Nick run with one of his running buddies. So his buddy Tim had done states the year before. Nick paced him, and he did the championships 3 years ago as well. Just jumped on a horse and went, and he's real gung-ho. So we've done a lot of practicing with Nick and Tim, mainly because Kona is a very forward horse and needs a lot of rating, especially at the start. So he had practiced quite a bit, and then when the date moved, Tim broke his ankle. So we didn't even know if we were going to run the race. We had thought about a couple different partners for Nick. Work got really busy. I was still recovering, I'm like figuring out how to be a mom and get workouts back in. So finally we said, you know what, we'll just go. We'll try it. It'll be an accomplishment for the whole family if we can just do this. But I think what we really relied on was just our base and Kona's base, because we hadn't gotten out very much to pull it off. But he was a dream to tie. He never really had too many horses running by him, because once we got out and no horse caught him tied. But he did great at the start. We did that hand tie and he just fell asleep. He was like, I don't know what's going on, but I better just stand here and wait for the runners to come.
I mean, that was a concern of ours, of his ability to tie, because it was a very different sport than endurance. But one of our goals was to get out in the front so that there weren't horses passing him. So he didn't have to worry about that. And because of that, every single tie we did, he looked like he had done it 100 times. He just, hung out.
So you pretty much led start to finish then, sounds like.
Yeah. So I think, so Alyssa went out in maybe third place or second place. And once I got the hand tie, I don't think we ever looked back. So I got on the horse after that. We passed the teams, and I don't think we ever looked back after that point.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to have, well, I'm always the one stressed out because I'm the back end of the team. So I'm the one that sees people catching us. So I'm like, Nick, I saw 2 other teams over there. And then he's like, you got to give me the horse faster, which usually results in Alyssa needs to run faster because the horse is fast enough, but he can only make up so much ground if I'm not, getting to him very quickly. So, yeah. So my experience, the times that I've been running front, in some ways that's also stressful. Particularly once you get far enough out, you don't know how far behind the other people are. Did you feel like you were being pushed, or did you feel like you could relax a little bit? And
so for me as the front runner, I felt like, so for a while I thought we were way out in front. I was running hard. I felt great. I thought we were way out in front. But then there were a couple ties where Kona couldn't catch me. We did like 3-4 mile stints where the horse just could not catch me. Technical stretches. It was very technical. It was rocky. It was single track. I could actually move out faster than the horse. And when Alyssa caught me and said I saw the other two teams and we were at mile maybe 15, then I started freaking out. And then from mile 15 on, I felt like we were being pushed. So and in the vet checks,
that's an opportunity for everybody to assess and see where everybody stands. So that's always a little stressful when you leave the vet check and you're passing other runners, or you actually see another horse and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't have a second to inventory who was in there. But I think you always have to be pushing, or someone will start showing up right behind you. So there's not a lot of downtime if you're trying to be competitive.
Good.
Well, so obviously, as a front runner is, when I have that stint where they don't catch me for 3 or 4 miles, I don't know what's going on with the horse. So that was actually more stressful for me than where are the other teams, but where's my horse?
Yeah, that makes sense.
3 miles without being caught, it's a long way.
I stress it out.
Yeah.
So obviously, and that's part of riding now, is your strategy has to change mid-course depending on what's going on. But how often were you trying to make your ties?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I mean, my initial goal was I would ride for a 1/4 mile, tie the horse, and then Alyssa would ride for 3/4 of a mile. And it seemed that worked really well for the first 10 miles. And then I did a 1/4 mile tie, and it got really technical and really steep, and they never caught me. So then we ended up doing even shorter than that. I was probably tying every 0.15 to 0.2 miles. So I had my watch, and as soon as we would hit that, I would look for a tree and I'd tie it off.
I think more than that though, because we knew this course because we've been over in Pool a bunch. And so we would go based on where we were at in the loop. So if So once we had a really great rhythm for the first loop, but once we got out of the vet check, then it took me half of that second loop to catch him. So then it's like, okay, well, can you make it to the creek? And then can you make it to the Aloha aid station? And we tried to strategize so that Nick was taking the horse into the next vet check and out running. So just knowing that it took me like 5 of the 8 miles to catch him, that we really only had 3 miles to do any kind of ties. And then the last loop being 3 miles long was just crazy, because I think I told you to like walk that loop, because I was like, there's no point in you getting to the finish line without me. Right. And if I'm going to have to vet a horse and then go do this 3-mile loop. And so I think both us and the second place team have that same strategy, to kind of just at least try to catch our runner so we could do the mandatory switches and coming together. So.
Yeah. That's brilliant to realize it's not going to do any good to cross the line. It's got the other two have to come across anyway. Do you have any future plans? This really wasn't, you didn't even plan to do this one.
Yeah.
What, you going to defend your title in a couple of years when it comes back west?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think going forward, we'll probably try to do as many of the West Coast riding ties as we possibly could. You know, Chuck is really gung-ho about potentially trying to get to doing one on the East Coast. But with the little one, that may be tough in the near future. But I think for the foreseeable future, we'll try to do all of the West Coast ones.
All right.
Yeah, it's one of the things we look forward to every 2 years. So
it depends a little on timing too, though, because I think if I ever decide to do a Tevis, it's managing the horses in the barn, and it's tough because I think when I was winning, they were training for riding tie, and then they take those the horses to endurance rides secondary to get in shape for riding tie. So it's definitely a different way of training to train at those speeds. And that's why they were winning all their endurance rides, because they were training riding tie horses. So you just got to have a little bit of strategy around that for the summertime event if you're going to do Tevis or any other big events too. Yeah.
Well, I can almost guarantee you, anytime you want to come east, we can get you horses, and we can make that happen. I'd love to see you out here if you can make it.
Yeah.
So obviously with Rory makes things a little more complicated, but still.
Just a bit. She's a good traveler.
Yep.
But that may be in our future. I mean, we would love to do something like that as well.
Absolutely. Good. Well, if somebody has never done riding tie or doesn't have much experience, what would be some advice or some encouragement you'd give to them?
I mean, because we're in Auburn, we tell our running friends, like, you just need to find a horse person. And then your horse person needs to get a little better at running, and you got to get your runner on a horse on occasion. Because it's hard to have horses. It's hard to have that institutional knowledge of how to train a horse, or even what do you do electrolyte, like what hoof protection do you use? So around here, it's kind of partnering those endurance riders and the ultra runners that are like slightly interested in the crossover. But I mean, there's half the people out there were just having a good time, and it was a fun day for everybody. I mean, my sister did the lead line on Sunday with my 5-year-old niece and her best friend, and they lead lined the riding tie with their mini horse, Team Flower Bloom. I mean, it was adorable. Yeah. So I just try it. I mean, safety is a big thing. You want to take care of yourself and your horse. So just knowing that you can handle that, right? Because the start is different, but the start's so much different than it was when my dad was racing. I mean, it's manageable. People are there, like I said, for a fun weekend, and they'll help each other out, and it's a really inviting community. So,
and then I'd say if you want to be competitive and if you do want to win, honestly, the key is training. Put in the time, right? Put in the time to get fit as a runner. Put in the time to get the horse fit. Those two things make a huge difference. And then the next piece of that is practice, right? So go out and do a couple practice riding ties, see how the horse ties, and see what distance you do need between ties, because depending on who your teammate is, that's going to change, right? If I would have ran with Tim, it wouldn't have been quarter-mile ties. It probably would have been a little farther. So getting to know that three-person team is really important as well. Me and Alyssa had done enough riding ties. We knew what our strategy was, so we didn't need as many practices, but to get really dialed in with your teammate, you do need to know that distance to tie. Yeah.
And
of course. Yeah, that's what I was say. When you got that's that third teammate, particularly if the person isn't as used to the horse, is not their horse. That's having that extra seat time is great. Indeed.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways it was almost more helpful to have me than Tim because I used the horse exactly how like he's a little bit of emotional leaving the vet check. All horses are kind of depressed going out, right? And Nick and Tim might have said, he's done, he's tired, right?
Yeah.
And they might have said, you know, we got to slow down. Whereas I was like, oh, I know Kona and I know that this is very typical for him. So I'm going to ask him to keep moving, you know? So
Yeah.
that knowledge.
That's great.
Yeah.
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 Well, as we wrap up, show us your trophies.
Now this is the new base on the
Whoa.
best. It's very top heavy.
Very top heavy.
Yeah. It's the new base on the best condition when it's beautiful. So Jackson's on here. I think here. Yep. Oric.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we have these beautiful bookend first place ones.
Absolutely beautiful awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you would expect from the riding guy.
Yeah.
Such a
These will be on the mantle.
fantastic job.
These remind me of some of the ones my dad has from back when Levi's was, it's really nice.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
And this one will have to go to someone else next year.
That's right. Or you can come out west, bring Kona and defend it. I mean, come on.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you once again for being with us, and congratulations again on both the winning the race and best condition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
All right.